call the meeting to order, 5:30. Reading of the district's promise statement. We promise to provide a supportive environment where unique learning experiences empower all for their chosen life adventure. Are there any additional items for the agenda? I will note at the bottom, we do have a policy meeting coming up that is set on the books, that it's just not on the bottom there. And that's July 27th at 4 p.m. All right, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
That's Kendra Hayne. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Tim Berg. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 5-0. Recognition of visitors and open forum. We don't have anyone here willing to speak or wanting to speak. Reports and presentations, student representatives report. We don't have the outgoing students aren't here anymore, and we don't have our incoming students yet. Committee reports, has anybody met? I think we've all just met as a group, haven't we? Okay, then we're on to C, superintendent report.
So I just want to draw to your attention a couple of different items here. So IEA does some environmental health and safety management services, and they've been providing it to JWP schools for the last. Thank you for the reminder. I just want to point out that IEA has been providing the environmental health and safety management services to JWP for several years. And so their contract was up. So this contract was their proposal that, as you can see, it engages for $7,670.09 for fiscal year 22. Fiscal year 23 is $78,8883. And fiscal year 24 is $88,114.47. These are kinds of management services that provide expertise from outside folks that we need and we need help with. And so when I talked to Kurt told me, he goes, well, you can go ahead and sign it. It's below the $20,000 limit that the board put on. So I did go ahead and sign that. I hope I didn't make that mistake, but it is, it's less than, obviously it's between $7,000 and $8,000 a year for the next 3 years. I just wanted to draw that attention to your attention. We also met again with Counseling Services of Southern Minnesota, and they did have an MOU. Again, this is a service that has been provided in JWP schools for the last several years. It's a co-located service. In other words, they're not our employees. But we do give them space, we give them access to some technology and copiers, and they can work with kids, and they provide mental health services here. So they've done that for the last several years. So each year it takes an MOU for this to happen, and so we did meet with Jeremy and myself. They do have some outside of this MOU, they did reveal to us some additional services and curriculum that they're providing, just as an FYI for us. But really, at this particular point, it doesn't look like at this point we would access any of those things, only the co-located services. Any questions around that? Okay. Hearing none. I can never do the touch screen. So then the interim principal search update. So we've had, I believe, 9 or 10 applicants. And so we did, Jeremy is running this process. He and I have been collaborating on it. And so we've chosen 4 candidates to be interviewed this Wednesday. This Wednesday from 1 till 5. That includes 2 external and 2 internal candidates. And there were, if these candidates for some reason don't work out, we have another 5 that we can look at, and it was posted as open until filled. So we might be bringing in some additional applications this week. But we did have some good candidates, and so we thought we wanted to get right to it. And so Jeremy's got a group of 10 people or 11?
11.
11, including you. So that will be going through that process. There'll be some training with them a little bit before that. We do have a confidentiality agreement that we ask our staff to sign, or that we will begin to ask our staff to sign. Basically, what they have to understand is that, what happens in that room has to stay in that room, right? And a good example would be, let's just say Matt is interested in being the head bean catcher for JWP schools, and we're interviewing him, right? Well, you don't want him to be the head bean catcher. You really want him. And so now there's a knock-out, drag-out little argument inside the room. That can never get back to Matt. It just can't, for confidentiality purposes, right? So we do have a new document that we will require people to sign, helping them understand, pursuant to potential discipline, that you just don't talk about things, right? So that's I think that's all. Do you have any questions for me outside of anything related to that report or anything related to last week's update?
How soon, are we just looking for as soon as possible to have that position filled? There
Yeah.
will be overlap.
Yep. So we'd like to have it filled, and so the person could start by April 9th?
August 9th.
August 9th. Yeah, April 9th. August 9th. So that there could be some overlap, right?
Okay.
Any other questions? I do have, for your later consideration, where am I? Where is it? A little bit of a community engagement plan if the board chooses to move forward with the IEA proposal for tonight. So I just wanted to show that to you now, because obviously that plan will need some communication, right? And what decision was made, why was it made, what are the pros, why did we make it now, why didn't we put it off till later? SiteLogic. SiteLogic provided us some nice talking points, and I can show those to you now up here. There are technically correct reasons around for the scope. There are also some fiscally correct reasons, and then some politically correct reasons, so to have as part of the conversation at a later point. I want to draw your attention to an article that came out on July 17th in the Star Tribune. Did any of you see this? Yep, and basically it says, pandemic hot weather prompt Minnesota schools to take a new look at their HVAC systems. And the picture there, that happens to be a very familiar picture to me. That's Hubert Olson Elementary and Middle School in Bloomington, where they don't, it's not AC, and because of the heat of the summer and the summer programming, they're having to pump AC in kind of in a very less impressive way. But one of the things that it talks about in here is about the searing heat Minnesota is forcing schools already concerned about indoor air quality amid the pandemic to consider further mechanical upgrades to buildings without air conditioning. So I thought that was a very pertinent article given the board's consideration of the proposal tonight.
Thank you. Any questions from anyone? Okay. D, strategic plan report. Getting that, okay.
Okay, a while back, we did a survey with our teachers with staff community and students for our, as part of our strategic plan. The results you got a few weeks ago as a big chart like this. Both sides, it has the staff survey, the student survey, and also community survey. What our takeaways from them, and this is just a recap for you guys. Our takeaways are for the student recap in elementary school, we had 163 students take the survey. 97% of the students responded that they enjoy attending JWP schools. In high school, 85% of the students responded that they feel positively connected to their advisor. So, and then there's also areas of growth. One area of growth, and Mr. Hansen is going to talk about this in a little bit, is student behavior expectations, support, and responses need to be improved. And then another area is continuing to develop positive relationships between staff, students, and all students having at least one go-to member. And Mr. Lidke will touch on that in a little bit. Our staff results, we had 86 of our 110 staff fill out our results. 98% of the staff responded to liking to work at JWP, and 89 responded that they believe in the district's promise statement, with 5% answering NA or unsure. So it looks like 94% responded in favor of our promise statement. Areas of growth is to continue the need to collaborate with students, staff, and parents on standard-based grading in the elementary, and then also student behavior expectations like we talked about in the first one, specifically at the high school. Andrea wanted to be here, but she's in a staff meeting right now. So the community reports, or the community ed reports for her, she had 18 responses for Kids Corner. Highlights our feedback, positive feedback in all areas of Kids Corner programming. All the parents that took the report or took the survey did said that they would recommend our Kids Corner to neighbors and family members. An area of growth is to have consistency among staffing, because we do have quite a bit of staff turnover with that, and they might have 3 different staff members during a day depending on morning SAC, wraparound during the day, and then also SAC after school. Wraparound, 100% of the responses, and we had 9 responses, strongly agreed that our wraparound care provides appropriate staff to student ratio. The wraparound staff provides a safe and supportive environment. One thing is we'd like to increase the sense of belonging for the students with positive respect and interaction. And as far as elementary, the parent survey results, we had 80 responses. 95% of the responses strongly agreed that JWP schools attend to the needs of their social and emotional needs. 93% of the respondents strongly agreed that they would recommend JWP Elementary School to a friend or a neighbor. One area of growth is the belonging and finding a way for new students to connect outside of the classroom. And then the high school, where we had high school parent survey recap, is 86 responses. We had high rating in most academic areas. 85% strongly agreed that JWP High School provides a safe learning environment. Areas of growth is to provide a supportive environment where students respect each other's differences and to keep growing opportunities for college and career readiness. So, any questions about our survey that went out to families?
Okay, I'll take the next line. So if you've opened the link in your agenda, we're just going to go right down the line here on our strategic plan achievements and next steps. So an accomplishment from last year, and that will continue this fall, is the Catalyst Approach training, and this is classroom management training for teachers. We invited most of our newer teachers and non-tenured teachers last year to participate in this training. They all loved it. I had a few bring what they were doing in their classroom as a result of this training to staff meetings and look to continue that over this next year as they kind of bring this training to our whole staff, all of our teachers, instead of just that cohort that went through it. And we're looking at digging a little bit deeper into this in the fall. So I've been working with that Catalyst group to find an appropriate date during our workshop weeks coming up soon. Another next step that we've got on here is adopting a communication plan between staff and parents. There have been some pieces of that utilized in the past, but we want to make sure that this is really clear and available for everyone. So we're talking about how we utilize Infinite Campus, how Seesaw is utilized for teachers, students, families, primarily all those digital resources that we have available, Infinite Campus, Google Classroom, all of those things that get really confusing and kind of intertwined and complicated. We want to make sure that it's really clear what the purpose of each one of those is, and so that we all have the ability to use them the way they were intended. Another next step is something that Ryan is the Dean of Students, and OJ, actually, our school resource officer, and Andrea has been a part of this as well, is talking about specific behavior expectations and making sure those things are common. The language is common around that, and we've got specific protocols, for responding to and reinforcing behaviors. So that's been some work that Ryan and I are doing on a weekly basis this summer. We're meeting every week to talk about what we have currently in place, and some of that specifically around restorative practices and how we respond to behaviors appropriately per student need, but also consistently, so there's not confusion amongst staff on, one student does one thing and another does the same thing, and it seems like there are different results. So trying to make sure that all of those things are aligned and everybody understands the background on all of that.
Okay, now I'm going to talk about unique learning experiences. One of our accomplishments is the implementation of a kindergarten readiness tool. And this is an assessment tool to let us know that students that are in preschool going into kindergarten next year are ready for it. The trick behind this was finding one that was recommended by the Minnesota Department of Education and also parent aware. So there's only a half dozen or so we had to figure out which one worked best for us. The one we chose was Core Advantage. Our teachers have been trained on it, and they have some follow-up tutorials to do, and the full implementation will be starting in the fall. Then Bulldog Academy. Last year was our first year Bulldog Academy. It's our Bridges program between preschool and kindergarten. It's been a great success for us. Last year we had 13 students in it. A few of them went on to first grade. The others are continuing on to kindergarten. Now this year we have 12 students signed up for Bulldog Academy. So that number seems to be kind of where we've settled in the last 2 years. We may get an addition in there also. Another accomplishment is our curriculum and instruction review cycle. This is something that Mike and Claudia have worked on. This is a long document. I'll highlight a few things for Claudia since she's on vacation. They use this as it's a great talking point for the teachers as they're going through looking at new curriculum, how they're going to review it themselves and make decisions on it. So there's a number of phases. They do a review of all the standards. Then we do a review of the different curriculums. We pilot curriculums for a year, and then we go on to adopting the curriculums. So this year, where we're at is 6th grade is going to be piloting 3 different science curriculums, and then they're going to make a recommendation for the whole elementary next year from those curriculums that they're piloting. The high school already has their curriculums because they wrote it themselves. Now they're out searching for different curriculum tools that they can use in order to increase the engagement of the students as they're learning. But like I said, this has been a great talking point. If you look at the bottom of the screen right there, it talks about the different curriculums and instructional review cycles. The state goes on and reviews and updates their state standards every 10 years. So this is the cycle we're following as of right now. If you look at the elementary compared to the high school, they're a little bit different, but the high school is farther along with language arts because they adopted a new series, and the elementary hasn't adopted yet. So the elementary is going to take the next 2 years to go through their standards, really look at curriculums, and then they'll be piloting for a year and then adopting a curriculum. The last thing is the implementation or identifying strategies to close the achievement gap between general education students and students that are general education on an IEP. So what the work that Claudia's been doing is working with the special education teachers, looking at all of the grade level standards, figuring out where they fit in the IEPs. So if I have a 5th grader that's maybe reading at a 2nd grade level, we know that we can go to 2nd grade and find their standards and just adapt them to that student. So we're giving honest, accurate feedback to the student and the families, rather than a report card saying they're getting all 4s, when really they're not doing that work. So this will be a lot better way for us to report to families how those students are doing at their own level. Any questions about unique learning experiences?
For Bulldog Academy, did you say some of them went on to 1st grade and some went to, so they skipped kindergarten?
They do, but the Bulldog Academy is working on the same standards, just not as intense as 1st grade or as kindergarten. So Miss Doohan, that's her new married name, by the way. Miss Doohan met with kindergarten teachers. They went through some assessments and made recommendations of who would be ready for 1st grade, who would be ready for kindergarten. We have to do it that way for funding purposes.
All right, moving on to the next area of empowering all. The first 3 accomplishments there kind of all tie in together. One thing that we tried over this past year in order to implement more SEL conversations and work in our building was a trial of Move This World. That went all the way from K through 12, and then also in our community ed program with our students after school. And that was one program that we did receive a lot of feedback on, and we're not continuing that next year. Specifically in the high school, it was one of those programs that seemed more geared towards elementary students that they made fit in a high school setting, and our kids definitely caught on to that, let's say, and they were not too excited about continuing with Move This World. Neither were a number of our high school teachers. So that's one thing that we'll talk about in a moment as far as moving on from Move This World. And we also want to make sure, and we've been integrating more frequently in staff meetings and other committee meetings, that we are supporting our school district staff with their social and emotional learning and trying to embed that in our culture. So whatever we're doing, we're aware that everyone comes to our spaces with different experiences and at different places, and then making sure that we give them the space and the time to think through that, give them support as needed, or provide opportunities to collaborate with one another, be it something fun or something more intentional on how to address our own social and emotional health. I think this past year was a prime example of how we need to prioritize this more in our individual lives as people here and not just staff members. So we're trying to prioritize that moving forward. And growing those opportunities and offerings for our teachers in various methods throughout the year is something that we've been working on. So then next, moving on, elementary after Move This World will go back to what they had been using, and they were still using this in part last year, which is Second Step. That curriculum will be the SEL curriculum for elementary. And then at the high school level, we are continuing to look at different options. We've got a couple on the table. One we have used previously for more Tier 2 and Tier 3 or intensive situations with students that might need more intense support with their social and emotional health. So that one will continue. And then we're looking at piloting another program right away this fall, and then bringing our task force back together to review with that grade level team that will be piloting it what that program was like. So there's more to come in that area. The last next step on empowering all is developing communication to inform our parents and community members on some of these SEL concepts that we've been working on here in our building, the programming that we do, and then why that's important. And so actually Mike Birding will be working on creating some training and videos on those concepts to share out with parents, district staff, faculty, anyone that's involved with what's going on here in our district. Any questions on empowering all? All right, moving on. I'm going to have Mr. Lakey, our Dean of Students, start out by talking about our life adventure areas in a couple areas. So this might go a little back and forth, but he's going to get started on life adventure.
All right, so at the end of the year, last year, we surveyed all of our students to see what they were involved in the community and at school. And from that survey, there was a couple things that kind of came up. One was FFA has been a great turnout as far as the school. Seems like there's been a lot of kids that have enjoyed FFA. And then two additions that have came up were bass fishing has been a big one, especially for the boys. And there are bass fishing leagues and associations around the state that are comparable to like a clay target. So Mr. Hansen and myself have been looking into that. And then also Knowledgeable was another big one that kind of came up. And we've had Knowledgeable in the past, but it's been a long time ago. So those are two big ones that we're looking to accomplish. Knowledgeable would be a little bit easier to get started just because it's not as intensive as bass fishing. Bass fishing, they're just a lot like clay target where you have to have somebody just kind of take it and run with it. So we'll be talking more about bass fishing here in the future, probably this summer, and it is a summer activity. Again, not through the State High School League, but it could be run as an extension of the school or community ed program.
So if any of you, or if you know anybody that has maybe a boat that would be super interested in this, just let us know. So that's an exciting one. And like Mr. Lakey said, we had a lot of respondents say they were interested in fishing. Surprise, surprise. Some accomplishments going back to the first 2 points here. We have evaluated some programming and made adjustments for students in grades 7 and 8. One of those, namely, is one we've been trying to get going for a couple years in getting music appreciation going for our 7th and 8th graders as an option, other than just, that you're in concert choir or you're in band. So we want to give some students options there as well. And so that just kind of adjusts our schedule a little bit. There will be some study skills classes that tie in there to fill that period, specifically for our 7th graders, as we know they need some additional support, learning those study skills, organization, time management, also some of those soft skills that we've seen lacking. We hope that once we identify those things and give students what they need in 7th grade, we'll see more return 8th grade and then in high school as well, so we don't have to start teaching those things in high school, but they come in with some of those skills. Another item that's really exciting is the number of college credits earned here at JWP. That has increased from 87 to 141 to 186 credits during this past school year, which is really great. We actually have a new teacher coming in our social studies department that will be taking one of those concurrent enrollment classes that he's taught in a previous district. We've got a couple ELA teachers that have either pre-approval or approval to teach courses that are concurrent enrollment through Riverland. That will continue to increase. And that's one of our next steps, is just increasing the number of college credits earned on campus by eligible students, and we continue to increase opportunities for students to have those done here. It's a great opportunity for them, it's a cost savings for our kids, and it really increases the rigor in the classroom too, so that's exciting. Questions on life adventure?
When you asked the kids for, what they wanted to do, did you have like a set of questions of like, would you be interested in fishing, or did they all just say that on their own?
There was some check boxes that they could click to say like, oh, this sounds like fun, just
Okay.
because there's some from the State High School League, there was just some other club and activities like that. So they could select bass fishing, and I think bass fishing was given as a
One of the
hint in actual
options,
survey.
okay.
Yeah.
Has there been any more discussion about boys volleyball? I know I've heard that go around the state, so I didn't know if that's been, have you heard?
Not here locally.
Okay, I was just curious.
And I think if I remember correctly, the survey did have, you know, an option for students to kind of put in their own. And so another item that came up for a few was debate. And we've got some students that would be prime and ready for, you know, holding some debates. And so that's another option that Ryan and I actually talked about last year before the survey was sent out, because we had kids specifically asking about that. So we know, you know, now we know specifically what kids want, and now it's just time to try to figure out how to get them what they need.
Good. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. E, budget information, enrollment update. There's much to. Discuss there. I think that's still from the end of May, right? We don't have anything different to report on.
Has there been any updates on kindergarten? Anything like that? Or do we have numbers for that coming into the fall?
52.
That's kindergarten, is that academy too?
That's academy.
Totally.
Let me double check.
That's all right. So up.
Any other questions on that?
That I'm playing phone tag with for a possible third or another kindergartner also.
Nice.
Okay. Historical cash balance. Any questions on that?
Looks great.
Now, Matt, you had said this, if we go through with the project, what did you say that would drop to? Do you recall what you would give us?
Oh, well, as far as fund balance, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. We had talked about, you know, we'd still be above the policy. I don't have the exact figure on the
Okay.
top of my brain right now, but this, you know, obviously cash in the bank and fund balance kind of follow the same lines, but there's differences, so.
Okay.
But obviously, right now, we are in a very strong cash position, so that's even more why I feel confident that the parts we've talked about financing in-house would be doable, so.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? All right, if not, we'll move on to 7, approval of the consent agenda. As always, anybody can pull anything out. Does anybody have any clarifying questions before we move to approve? If not, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
That's Tim Berg. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Kendra Hayne. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 5-0. No old business, so we'll move on to new business. A, accept request from Jeremy Erler for year-long leave of absence. Is that a motion that we have to approve? Okay, is that a resolution, do you know? That one's not? That's just a motion one, okay. All right, do we have a motion to accept the request from Jeremy Erler for year-long leave of absence?
I'll make a motion to accept the request from Jeremy Erler for a year-long leave of absence.
That's Tim Burke, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
That's Tim Melke, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 5-0. B, approve the proposed contract between Jeremy Erler and the board to be the long-term interim superintendent. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed contract between Jeremy Erler and the board to be the long-term interim superintendent.
That's Tim Burke. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Kendra Hain. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 5-0. C, accept bid from Metcon for fax and life skills room. Does anybody have any discussion before we move into that?
I guess one new bit of information on that we did receive is, obviously it's an estimate, but they put 65% on the fax room and 35% on life skills, which puts the fax room just for the bid here at about 207, if, rounding. So that leaves about 43,000 left in the grant on that end, and then obviously life skills would be at about 111, so.
So, did we come in under budget then, fine, or where, from what we originally, because we had the 250 and we were gonna put in, we were gonna take out, I should say, was it about 100,000 out of the
Right.
designated fund?
Well, the life skills is what comes out of MA, and that was, that we had roughly said 100,000 on that when we first talked about it, so that end, we are a little over. But once, like I mentioned last time, we do have an abundance of MA, so if it's gonna be over on one side, to me, it was better to be on that life skills side, so we can use that reserve up more. Obviously, it would have been great to be on budget, but, and I don't know if Matt has any further comment on that. I don't exactly remember the construction budget we started with, but this is a little higher than we had intended still, but obviously a lot of work was done to get it as low as it is right now, just with it was bid out, so.
So what happens with, if we're $43,000 short on the grant part of it for fax?
No, we have 43,000 left, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
what's that gonna be used for? Because you have to use it or you lose it, right?
Well, there's still fees. I mean, this is just the construction bid, so we had the material, or the, like, appliances we purchased as well, and
How much were those? Do we know?
I know the total was about 20,000, and once again, that's broken out between the rooms, so.
I guess what I'm looking at is where, if we budgeted 350,000 for this total project, where are we sitting? I mean, are we at 380,000, or, I mean, are we running 20,000 over what we budgeted, 10? Because, the way it's being explained is that we have 43,000 left in the grant, which we really don't.
Well, I just meant, after this bid, obviously this is a significant portion of it.
Well, and see, and that's where I guess maybe I'm not
Right.
understanding, because I'm kind of thinking this bid was supposed to be total for everything for the life skills and fax room.
Well, yes, I guess, sorry. To clarify, this is just the construction, like the actual, going in, ripping out the.
Metcon's work.
infrastructure. Yeah, Metcon's work. There's obviously other parts to it. So, I'm trying to pull up an email here.
So you said that, that Metcon broke it out in 65%, is that what you said is the fax room?
Mm-hmm.
Madam Chair, I think I can provide some clarity if you wish.
Yes.
Sure.
please.
Yeah, I was trying to find that sheet you had that had more of the project, but I.
Yeah, whatever you need to do. Oh, yeah, on the microphone, please. That way
So, Matt, while you're pulling it up, I can just speak to rough numbers. So what you see here is, it was correct, I think Tom mentioned, this is specific to Metcon and their bid. So obviously, you can see what the base bid was, and then with value engineering, which was simply, turned out to be a time frame. As we talked about, a later start, a little bit later finish. So that's what that piece of it is. Back in, I think it was February, you approved a contract with SiteLogic for fees. That's not gonna change in terms of, even though the project came in a little bit more, we're gonna hold our fees. And so, that was around 30,000. what I recall, again, these are rough numbers, and then 20,000 for equipment, so roughly 369. And if you think about budget, it was 350 with 100,000 for the MA and 250,000 for the grant, so about 20,000 over, approximate.
Okay.
And again, as Matt indicated, that was on the life skills side, so that would be more out of the MA dollars.
And how much of that do we have? You said we had a significant amount of.
So we can cover that 20 out of the M8 out of.
Right,
So,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, like I said, at the end of course, the last audited information we have was at the end of 2020, but we had almost 250,000 in there.
Okay.
And it's grown since then, correct?
Well, I'm assuming this year, yeah. There was limited opportunity to spend it, so whatever we took in pretty much is probably gonna grow.
Okay.
Is that the one that you have to use by?
Yes.
Either way, whichever you decide.
Right. Any questions?
Not on the total plan, but I do have a question for Jeremy on this. The life skills, we talked about how Ms. Steinberg would be, for the first half of the year, would be in the multi-purpose room. When they're working on the life skills portion, where are those students gonna be?
The plan is we have a smaller classroom on the southeast corner of the third floor. That's where they'll be in the meantime.
Okay. Okay, just was wondering. 'Cause we didn't-
It's the back side of the old business lab.
Yep, okay. All right.
All right. So for 9D, well, any other questions before you? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve district intent to proceed with the IAQ Deferred Maintenance Energy Optimization Project as presented.
That's Tim Burke. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
That's Tim Elke. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1. So E then is approve resolution approving and authorizing the submission of the district's 10-year plan to the Minnesota Department of Ed. Do we have any discussion before we move forward with that? If not, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution and authorization for submission of the district's 10-year plan to the Minnesota Department of Education.
That's Tim Elke. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Tim Burke. And this is a roll call, so Wendy.
Cahill,
Yes.
Hain,
Yes.
Elke,
Yes.
Size,
Yes.
Burke.
Yes.
All right, motion carries 5-0. So, let's see, okay. So that E covered all of that in 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so then F we need? All right, so F, approve resolution authorizing the issuance of general obligation facilities maintenance bonds series 2021A in the approximate aggregate principal amount of $9,535,000. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion for what Laura just said. It's a lot of words.
That's Tim Elke. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Tim Burke. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Oh, yeah, sorry. Resolution, thank you. Good call.
Hain,
No.
Elke,
Yes.
Size,
Yes.
Burke,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1. All right, G. Approve resolution approving post-issuance compliance procedure and policy for tax-exempt governmental bonds. Any, yeah. do you
I
wanna
was gonna
talk
say,
about
so
that?
this was recommended when I spoke to the bond council that this policy gets put in place. Basically, it ensures, that we keep our tax exempt status, and it basically, the whole policy is saying that we would follow all the requirements to keep our bond tax exempt. But, Kenny and Graven, who's doing the bond council, were the ones that recommended we implement this, so.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
That's Tim Burke. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Tim Elke. Any further discussion? All those in favor say, or sorry, another resolution.
Elke,
Yes.
Size,
Yes.
Burke,
Yes.
Hain,
Yes.
Cahill.
Yes.
All right. Motion carries 5-0. H, approve resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a professional services agreement with SiteLogic. Any further discussion before we move forward? If not, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
That's Tim Burke. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Tim Elke. Any further discussion? Not, all those in favor say aye.
It's a resolution.
Oh, yeah, another resolution, sorry.
Size,
Yes.
Burke,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Hain,
Yes.
Elke,
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Okay, I approve notice of intent to award a guaranteed energy savings contract and request for proposal.
So just to clarify, this is, posting that we are looking for basically a vendor to come in and provide this service. obviously Site Logic would be one of those that would be proposing, but anyone else would have the opportunity as well. And then it would be basically a bid opening and selecting the best candidate from there, so.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
That's Tim Burke. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And that's Tim Elke. Any further discussion? Okay, if not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0. J, approval of lunch prices for 21-22 school year. Anyone wanna talk about those? Did they go up or are they the same?
They're the same.
It's the only
It's
thing
kind
that's
of a
changed.
mute point. I mean, we approve them every July, that's why they're here, but with
Right.
the federal, summer foods continuation, but
And
always
that is
good to
that
check
is
the box,
That it's confirmed that they are continuing to pay through
Yeah.
next school year.
so.
But that, just from my own knowledge too, but that's just like, you get, if you go back for seconds, you're paying for that, right? It's just the main,
Right,
I
I was
don't
just
know,
gonna say that the
course or
second
whatever.
entree and extra milk, those prices need to be approved, because those
Yeah.
students would have to pay that.
Right, yes, good
Okay.
point there.
Okay. Any further questions? If not, do we have a motion to approve the lunch prices for 2021-2022?
I'll make a motion to approve.
That's Tim Burke. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Kendra Hain. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, approve athletic fee structure.
is this, the same fee structure we've had the last year or two? Where if you ever, I looked at it, but I didn't go back and try to find the one from previous, so
There's no change.
no change,
No
okay.
change. All right. Any other questions? All right. If not, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the athletic fee structure.
That's Tim Burke. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Kendra Hain. Any further discussion? Not. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 5-0. L, approve Jeremy Erler for designation of identified official with authority for the MDE External User Access Recertification System. Any discussion on that before we move forward? If not, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
That's Tim Burke. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Kendra Hain. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 5-0. 10, approve resolution accepting donations. We have one,
Just one.
yep, I gotta pull it up, sorry. Anonymous donor for $125 to go towards the driver's ed tuition. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the donations.
Donation.
That's Tim Elke. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Kendra Hain, and this one's a resolution.
Cahill,
Yes.
Elke,
Yes.
Size,
Yes,
Burke,
Yes.
Hain.
Yes.
motion passes 5-0. All right, 11, upcoming meetings. So we have the policy one on July 27th at 4 PM. And there'll probably be a special meeting put in there sometime to approve the principal, but we don't have a date set yet. So the ones coming up then are August 16th, the regular board meeting followed by Buildings and Grounds, and September 20th, the regular board meeting followed by Activities Committee. And we